Thank you. That's a reminder to make sure we do that. Let's us share it out afterwards. And also, again, we also may see that a message about live streaming that pops up that allows us to transcribe the call today as a technology back. Phil, it lets us do that so that even people that might not be able to hear what is going on today for whatever reason, or otherwise want to be able to see that happening as we go, can follow along the conversation with closed captioning. So that's what that message is about there. And then use the chat is our other suggestion for you today. The chat feature is bottom of your screen, probably around the center of it. It allows us to communicate, share your thoughts, ideas, ask questions, and there is a feedback. We do look at those things, and so please let us know what you're thinking, and feel free to use the chat today. It is not rude in Zoom to put things in chat while somebody is talking, so go ahead and do that. Awesome. So again, welcome to First Friday, everybody. Latricia, you want anything to add here as we get started?
Nope, just welcome. And we're gonna have Jeremy talk a little bit about NeighborWorks today. That's the focus of our First Friday this month. And so he's gonna go over a little bit of how Dwelling Place sees NeighborWorks and what the support they provide to us. And then we're gonna, like Jeremy said, welcome Andre to take over the rest of the call.
And at the end of the call, we'll probably have a couple of announcements. As Justin was alluded to earlier, we've got some new people that joined Dwelling Place, and we've been for staff, you might not realize that the First Friday call is a different call for us. On the Friday, we as staff get together the Friday, 9 o'clock Friday every Friday, but the first Friday of each month, we invite board members and try to have a special guest come and join and speak with us and share some about what is going on outside of Dwelling Place as well, or highlight different aspects of Dwelling Place. So we really are intentional about trying to use this First Friday space a little bit differently. But we'll still probably at the end of the call want to have a couple of announcements. So Latricia, if you can help remind me of that as well when we get there. But in the meantime, like I mentioned earlier, Andre is joining us today from NeighborWorks. And NeighborWorks is a national organization that really tries to support the community development sector as a whole. It really serves as kind of a umbrella organization that supports not just housing organizations, although housing is a big component of what they are supporting. It's really community development groups across the city or across the country. They tend to be connected with the biggest, the brightest, the best organizations around the country. They seem to be able to find ways to support, attract, and pull them into the membership there. And so we've been part of NeighborWorks since 2015. And it has been a great thing for Dwelling Place. It really connects us, again, with some of the best practices, lets us learn from peers who are doing similar work. And as it says on the screen there, it also financially, NeighborWorks has been able to kind of give back to Dwelling Place too. And so just this week, they announced a $360,000 award for us in the first grant round of funding. So that is great for us. We use that for both operating support for the organization as well as for improvements and capital improvements into some of our projects. So really a big deal for NeighborWorks to have the ongoing support from NeighborWorks. And again, not just because of the dollars that are connected to it, but also because of the trainings that they provide. It's been a little while a couple of years since we've been able to go in person to NeighborWorks trainings, but they are still opening up again. And some of us are going in a couple weeks now to a NTI, which is a week-long training program that NeighborWorks offers. So they really, again, provide a lot of great national expertise with, I think there'll be about 600 people from across the country, all capable of doing this work that are all together in addition to kind of the speakers and leaders of those classes. So it's a great collection of good people and good ideas in one place, which is great to be part of. So addition to that, they're supporting our BLBC is Building Leaders, Building Communities program, which we're working on right now in supporting in the Granville neighborhood. And there's just a lot of great different aspects to NeighborWorks, but one of the big things is just that access to the members and being able to get to know people from other organizations. Many of us have had opportunities to learn from other similar organizations, whether that's been around community building and engagement and the arts programming, digital divide work. Our RSCs or our CLT has also really benefited from being able to connect with some peer groups around the country. So that's kind of what NeighborWorks has done for Dwelling Place and why we have been part of this organization. But I'm going to turn it over to Andre and let him talk a little bit about what NeighborWorks is and where it is going.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. That was a great introduction. Rebecca, I saw you putting all the notes, folks. Rebecca is one of the veterans of a Dwelling Place, of course, and as well as her partnership with NeighborWorks America. So thank you so much there, Rebecca. There, it's a whole glossary, as we know, not only in the housing industry, but also with NeighborWorks America, as Jeremy is learning here as we go on. Lots of acronyms. So especially for NeighborWorks America. So, well, folks here, thank you so much for inviting me, Jeremy. I've gotten to know Jeremy since he started. I know, Jeremy, you're coming up on a whole year now, so you're getting there, my friend. I think it'll be a year in August, if I'm not mistaken. So I know that you've jumped in with both feet. I know I've worked a lot with Denny, and folks, I'm telling you, you have yourselves a winner here in Jeremy, particularly with the folks that he has on the staff, the other veterans that I've gotten to know over the years here. So I'm going to give really an overview of NeighborWorks America today, but also going to talk with you. Love to hear back from you, just in general, as Jeremy mentioned, where we are going as an organization. So I'll put a couple of slides in here to talk about our strategic plan. Where exactly are we going? We just closed out our last strategic plan, which ended in fiscal year 21. So we have launched a new strategic plan similar to what you are doing yourselves there. And I'll drill down on a couple of areas that I really see us really targeting and really focusing on as we move forward, so that we're sure that we're walking side by side with what you, Dwelling Place, what you're seeing in the communities that you're serving, what your needs are most importantly, but also what are you hearing from the boots on the ground, the community. Just a little bit of background on myself. I've been with NeighborWorks just over 8 years. Prior to that, I was a CEO of an organization, international development organization, where we did work in about 15 different countries and had headquarters there. I was with that organization for about 13 years before I was recruited to NeighborWorks America. And so we built hospitals. So I had a construction team. We also built laboratories. So we did dip into the housing depending upon the community that we worked in. We did quite a bit of work in Haiti after the earthquake in 2010, where we helped to build communities. So I'll be talking about what we mean by comprehensive community development. And I have to tell you, my friends, Dwelling Place is as close as it comes to really operating under that vein when you think about the place that housing has in the community, and as it serves as the catalyst to health, education, economic development, and community as a whole. So keep that in mind as we're talking here today. So next slide, please. All right, just some really quick background about NeighborWorks America. We're really recognized, we're a leader in the affordable housing and community development field with over 40 years in this area. And we'll talk about where our genesis is, where we began and why we began. That will sound familiar to you there at Dwelling Place as to why do you exist, why are you needed in the communities in which you serve in the Grand Rapids area there. But we have over 240 organizations like Dwelling Place that are part of the network. Right now, we are exactly at 255 because we did have a process in which we had some network members join us this past fiscal year. Actually, in the Midwest region, we have 2. Renew Indianapolis, so we actually didn't have a lot of representation in that area. And that's one of the criteria that we look at as to where are there gaps in communities across America where we do not have representation. So Renew Indianapolis, and also in South Dakota, Lakota Funds is another one that we had that's a CDFI, great organization, Lakota Funds there in South Dakota, which is part of the Midwest region as well. We are represented in all 50 states. Again, there are gaps within some of those states there. We also are in Puerto Rico and also the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have some operations. But one of the things that we also do is that we not only fund network members, but we also do have some non-network members that we consider strategic partners that we also fund, okay? And as you see that last bullet points, 204 network organizations that do rental units. We are managing close to 200,000 now. That number has actually increased with the actual addition of our funds. So thank you, Rebecca. Once again, Community Development Financial Institution. Rebecca's going to keep us in line with all of our acronyms here today. Thank you, Rebecca. Next slide, please. Here's what we did. Don't have our 21 numbers solidified quite yet, but what I wanted to do is share our 2020 numbers here. And again, this is the work of you. This is the work of the network. As we can see, almost 24,000 new homeowners. That's a lot of folks that are now in homes that would not have been had it not been for folks like you. Okay. 49% of those folks are identified as people of color, and that's 16% higher than the national average. So as you'll see with some of our strategic plans this year, communities of color are going to be a primary area where we're going to be doing a lot of concentration. Affordable rental units, of course, you're part of these numbers here, managed or owned in fiscal year 20. 46% of residents in rental units are identified, again, this is across the network, as people of color. And again, we also have people that have home repairs, you know, purchase, rehab, resell is a big aspect of a lot of our programs here. Again, nearly 77,000 in fiscal year 20. Again, 34% of the folks that receive that support are identified as persons of color there. Again, and 72%, wanted to put this in there, are under 80% of AMI, okay? 80% of AMI. So I know Rebecca will get that in there too. So next slide, please. About the NeighborWorks network, what we want to do here, again, high impact, okay? In other words, we want to do the best that we can to serve those that you are serving. And our primary really audience is you, the network organization, because we are an intermediary. And so what we want to do is make sure that you have all that you need to, again, support those that you're serving. And how do we do that? We keep our ear to the ground of the network. So we talk to you quite a bit to really understand what you're seeing, what the needs are. Locally oriented, okay? Again, this is similar to what you do. Also resident led. We've got to hear the resident voices here. So this is something that we want to concentrate on, and something that we want to continuously hear from you. So that's just about the NeighborWorks network. Next slide, please. All right. Many of you have heard of the name Dorothy Richardson. If you haven't, I really suggest there's a lot of YouTube videos that really speak to her, and really her genius, her courage, and her tenacity. And I love this quote here by Dorothy Richardson, who's really credited with the genesis, with the founding of NeighborWorks America. And I'll read it. I believe people get their roots down when they own their houses, take pride in them. That in turn is good for a whole city. Dorothy Richardson believed in community. Dorothy Richardson believed in power of the voice, particularly the voice of those that are living within those communities there. So this is a great woman. Again, get to know who she is, but I always say she founded NeighborWorks America. So again, get to know who Dorothy Richardson is. A great person there. I actually listened to one of her interviews, and one of the persons asked her, I remember before she passed away, they said, Dorothy, why do you continuously stay in the community in which you grew up in? She said, I went to school here, okay? My friends are here. I got married here. This is where I belong. This is where I am, and this is what I do best. And so she truly believed in community. And I always say, Dorothy Richardson, similar to Dwelling Place, knows how to provide handles. In other words, if you want to do something within your community, we are going to give you handles to do that, because if we all have handles, we can all do the heavy lifting, because that is what she was all about. And again, I know that this is, since you've joined the network in 2015, this is what you have always been about. This is what you are about. Next slide, please. Just some of the stats here on Dorothy Richardson. Again, she was in Pittsburgh and lived in Pittsburgh. And in 1968, city officials under scrutiny for poor living conditions in low-income neighborhoods. In other words, the community was seeing this. Dorothy Richardson was seeing this. And so what she does is form this organization with her neighbors called Citizens Against Slum Housing. And they, of course, elected her as the chair, as they talked about Who is that we need to talk to about the living conditions within our communities here in Pittsburgh? Who has the power to do something about it, and who understands that we also have a voice in our own communities here. So she looked at combating urban renewal policies. She also looked at who else needs to be a part of this partnership. So she really talked to financial institutions. She talked with corporations. She talked with law enforcement. So everyone that makes up a community, she talked to. And so she really found the neighborhood housing services. So when you see NHS of Kansas City, NHS of XYZ city, that is the neighborhood housing services. And she really founded the neighborhood housing services, in other words, NHS of Pittsburgh, which becomes really the model for the NHS organizations nationwide. So she really she trailblazed this NHS model nationwide, and eventually Neighborhood Reinvestment Corporation, that's also a key there, what we are also known as, and now we are known as NeighborWorks America. So when you hear Neighborhood Reinvestment Corporation, that is us, that is you who are part of the NeighborWorks brand, NeighborWorks America brand, okay? Now, if you have any questions as this comes up, please let us know. There's also a Dorothy Richardson Award for Resident Leadership. It's our national award. There's one winner per region. One of our groups out in Minnesota actually won this year. But again, we're celebrated at the Community Leadership, the CLI, Community Leadership Institute, and with great media models. Some of you may have even been able to be a part of that. I believe it was on March 30th, in which we awarded those winners. And again, these applications open every year. So my thing with Dwelling Place, because you have such great residents, and I've gotten to meet them. I've been to Dwelling Place about 3 times, and they've gotten to meet some of those folks. So this is what we want to really do. And so we want to nominate anyone, and anyone in your community is really open to being nominated for this. When you do that, let me know, and I will be sure that I advocate on behalf for the Midwest region person that you have there, okay? Next slide. Thank you so much. This here breaks, again, tactically our regions. As you can see, we're broken up into 4 regions. We are in the Midwest region, which includes all those states that are in the mustard yellow there. If you can see it on your slides there, that is where we represent. So we are a pretty big region as it relates to the number of organizations. Right now, we have 58 organizations that are part of the Midwest region. The Western region, as you can see, is everything from Texas and everything west of that. The Southern region in the orange there, as you can see, includes all those Southern states and goes all the way up even to Maryland there. They're also the Northeastern region, which also includes Puerto Rico there, of course, is the really New England states and everything up there. You see Pennsylvania, you see New Jersey, New York, and you see all of those different states in the Northeastern region there. And the Western region actually has 77 groups, so they have the most, and we have the second most out of network organizations. So the Midwest region is well represented there. So next slide. All right. And I wanted to bring this one up. Well, those dots represent where we are actually located here. Where the stars are, those are where we have actual offices. We are in Kansas City, which is where I reside. We are the kind of head local regional office for the Midwest region. Denver is where the Western region is, and they also have an office in Los Angeles. We also have in the Southern region, as you can see, Atlanta is where that star is located, where the Southern region is actually headquartered. And also the Northeastern region is headquartered in New York City. And you see the red star, that is our headquarters, which is in Washington, D.C. So just wanted to make sure that you kind of saw this as well. Okay, next slide. What do? We provide grants, and Jeremy mentioned this earlier. We provide grants to local nonprofit organizations, and I'll talk about the aspects of the different rounds that we have. We also provide technical assistance. I'll talk through that, and we also have training for community development and housing professionals. The NTI is one of those areas, and we'll talk about what that is here. Next slide. The grant framework here. This is important because money is, when we talk to network organizations team, this is what they say the biggest need is. So when I'm talking with Jeremy, he says the #1 need is that we need finances to help support the needs of the people that we're serving. That is the number one. And I'm sure that everyone would agree there that it takes dollars to operate in these communities here. Okay, the round one, there's a formula that is utilized to actually give you the award amount. Okay, and that has changed a little bit, but your award amount didn't change a whole lot based on some of the new data that we had here. Okay, and that is used again because you are exemplary. Part of that's going to be used for operations, as Jeremy mentioned, because that has now become unrestricted dollars there. And we could dig down, but we won't go into the nitty gritty of those of how that's done there. But understand that those dollars are for you to use to, again, improve your organization, thus improve your service to those that are in the communities there. Okay. Round two we have is a competitive round in which I can tell you now, you have great writers, you have great operations there at Dwelling Place because you are very competitive in these round two operations there. Jeremy and the team there, working with Jen and others, have just submitted some more for our regional round, which is up to $50,000 that is given during that round. Again, that's a competitive round. And we also have what we have our strategic investment fund. And that is really investing in the infrastructure of your organization and really figuring out what is it that you need as you start to grow. What do you need to make sure that your operations, we're looking at Justin here, keep up HR so far, keep up, with everything there, okay? And that opens up in April to May. Outside rounds, again, this is responsive to needs. Sometimes in these outside rounds, we get dollars given to us to give to the network. So Wells Fargo, Citibank, other entities say that, hey, we have $50 million and we want to give it to various communities throughout the country. They will oftentimes come to NeighborWorks and say, you have the infrastructure, you have the network, we want to concentrate on housing, let's give it through you, okay? And that's what some of those outside rounds really entail. And sometimes we actually have some funds that may be left over that we also utilize in those outside rounds. All right, next slide, please. All right, NTIs, again, NeighborWorks Training Institutes. We believe that training is the hallmark of NeighborWorks, okay? And I'll talk about where we're having those. As Jeremy mentioned, there's one in Los Angeles. It'll be the first one since the pandemic began that we've had in person. But in between those times, we've had what we call VTIs. That's virtual training institutes there. And those are also invaluable. And one of the things that we've learned is that we're actually having a hybrid this year. So there are a few courses that are going to be offered virtually as well, and we will probably continue that. I know one of the courses that is offered virtually, and Rebecca has gone through all what we call CHAM, C-H-A-M. I know Rebecca will put that in there, but the nuts and bolts of asset management is now a course that's offered online, is one of the great courses. If you've never taken a course and really want to learn that aspect of what you do as it relates to asset management, a great course to look at there that really indicates the Consortium of Housing and Asset Management there, CHAM there. All right. Next slide, please. All right. Going to dig a little bit just into our strategic plans here. Mission and vision. This is why we exist. This is why we serve. We're really creating opportunities for people to live really in affordable homes and really improve their lives, and at the same time strengthen their communities. So that empowerment is a big aspect of what we do and why we do it. Of course, core values. This is what we believe, that housing is a critical anchor for the investment in people and places to eliminate structural barriers to opportunities. In other words, housing is the catalyst for us. If housing is secure, if housing is safe, we believe that everything else really blossoms out of that. And we believe that all families, all individuals really deserve the experience of stability when it comes to housing and also to build wealth. One of our biggest aspects of what we're doing this year is really helping folks build wealth. In other words, how do folks really grow their economic situations? I know this is something that Dwelling Place talks a lot about, as to how can year to year a person improve their financial position. When we hear wealth building, we think of becoming a millionaire. What we want to look at is that wealth building is really improving your economic situation year to year, so that even generations, that are coming behind someone how do they also benefit from some of that wealth building? And one of those aspects of that is really is home ownership. And we believe that communities thrive where there is local infrastructure and strong nonprofits to support really the community and what they're doing. And again, that empowerment aspect so that the community continues to lead. And what you're doing, again, is providing the handles for all of the heavy lifting that we all do. All right, next slide. These are our strategic plan goals. Again, this plan is going to go for 3 years. Again, you are a big part of this. So what we want to do is empower you, Dwelling Place, to help us reach these goals, to create, preserve, and invest in affordable housing and wealth building. You're going to see that a lot. You're going to see that wealth building a lot. You're going to see that aspect of it there, Latricia. You're going to see that aspect of it, Chris. You're going to see all these things that we talk about here of supporting 60,000 households to remain stably housed. Again, a key is once you get in housing, we want to assure that you stay housed, okay? And expand access to capital for network organizations. Again, going back to that money aspect of it, what we want to do is bring on more partnerships, like I talked with you earlier about, to talk about network organizations and their need for capital. Again, foster stronger and more equitable communities. Again, comprehensive approaches, and I'll talk to that here in a little bit, and then strengthen the capacity and sustainabilities of the NeighborWorks network. And you can see what that looks like there. That when I really look at that diversifying the talent pool, as you look at bringing on more folks, we've heard from the network organizations that, you know, it's tough to find the great talent because it's very competitive out there. What we want to do is ask you, what is it that we could do more of from a NeighborWorks perspective to support you as you grow your talent pool, to support the efforts on the front line, to support the efforts of as you grow your different various departments there. All right, next slide. We talked about this. You're going to hear a lot about comprehensive community development. Again, you're already doing a lot of aspects of this, and I really wanted to pinpoint this to talk about, and as another acronym that you'll be seeing, CCD. Comprehensive community development really is an intentional approach aimed at really improving lives and strengthening communities. And CCD contributes to a place becoming a place, again, of opportunities where we believe housing is at the center point of all of that. And again, by improving outcomes for individuals and families, we're really stabilizing the real estate markets, building resident engagement. Again, what you're doing. The CLI, really those leadership opportunities and really engaging the community, the work that you do. And Jen, if I could ask you to talk just a little bit about what you're doing from your perspective when we worked with Paul with really getting the residents downtown and what they're doing. So if you could take just about 30 seconds to talk about Jen, because I think that's really part of this.
Yeah, we were really excited about being able to collaborate with NeighborWorks and have one of their team members participate in creating the SODIV brand that we worked on last year. And so many of you will remember the presentation we did where we talked about the process of doing that, which was bringing together a collection of residents and business owners in the South Division corridor. And Paul joined us from NeighborWorks, and he really provided the technical support to dig into how to create a neighborhood brand. And from that, we also created a marketing plan for the South Division corridor. And we have been working on that ever since. And so we really appreciated his ability to participate in that, and to NeighborWorks for lending the technical expertise.
Great. Yeah, Jen did a great job with that. And so her and her team there, I'm telling you, that's really a big part of what we're talking about here. We're engaging those communities and really letting them lead. And it was a great, I mean, I sat back and watched that piece there, and it was great there. So thank you for sharing, Jen. That is outstanding there. But you'll be seeing a lot about this. There's also going to be an opportunity to actually hear more about this, and I'll share that with Jen and Jeremy and the team here about that opportunity there as well, so that you can kind of see what some of those opportunities are and what we mean by comprehensive community development. Essentially, we're talking about looking at this holistically, not just strictly housing and the output of housing, but the outcome of housing and totally the impact. I know some of you, like me, doing international work, we've used that logic model, really going from the theories of assumption all the way to impact and everything in between. And I know that's how Dwelling Place operates as well. When you look at what is the impact that we want to see 10 years, 5 years, 3 years down the road. Okay. Next slide, please. And what is comprehensive community? Again, intentional approach, layered strategies, several core goals. In other words, what is it that you're trying to accomplish here? Community driven. That's the big aspect of this. Again, this empowerment piece, hearing the voices. If a community member says, this is what I'm thinking of, help me shape this. That's where we really want to see the network organizations come in and be a part of that. And that's going to be huge there. Again, robust CCD approaches are guided by really the community there. So, all right. So again, you'll be hearing a lot with this as we move forward here. All right, next slide. Of course, I had to go back to my international roots here, but I really believe there's one of the other aspects that you're going to be hearing a lot is really the impact of housing on health. I have a couple of slides I wanted to put into this. The reason I'm doing this is that I'm telling you now there's going to be opportunities for funding from really outside rounds, because we actually have the ear, I'll share this with you, of some of the pharmaceutical companies. And I have actually got us in the door with a couple of those I used to work with when I did work at my last organization. But really, we believe this: health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And the WHO, the World Health Organization, that's always stuck with me, because when people hear health, they think of, oh, strictly physical or disease-free, or tackling those ailments there. But we're really talking about physical, mental, and social well-being. That is what healthy is. That is what housing helps to provide, right? And so this is really what we want to concentrate on from this health perspective. Again, a tentacle out into a non-traditional funders who haven't done a lot of direct funding of housing, thus the pharmaceutical industry, insurance industries. That's who we're talking to, that language with that, okay? Next slide, please. I wanted to share this with you. Hopefully you can see this, but I thought this was very interesting. I attended this function a few years actually before I actually got to NeighborWorks. This was in 2014, and that's still really evident today. And one of the things that they talked about is really what health outcomes are we looking at? Length of life and quality of life. What is it that people want? As you drill down, what do we want? We want to live long, healthy, quality lives, right? That's what we talk about. That's the outcome. Everyone wants that, right? And so we talk about the physical environment, air, water safety, housing and transit. In other words, how do people get from one place to the other? They talked about 10%, but this has actually changed a little bit. Social and economic factors, 40%, education, employment, income, and you see the others, the support. You impact both of those, okay? Clinical care. Some of our groups have gotten into direct care. Most have not, but some have, because they look at this model to say that we want to go one up the tier and provide access to care. Again, not just physical, but we're talking psychological, we're talking mental, we're talking overall health. And then they start to look at health behaviors and their influence on that, tobacco use, so on and so forth. And you look at these pieces there, and on the left side, you see all the policies and programs that may affect this, the health factors, and then the health outcomes. And so what some groups are saying, again, with that comprehensive approach, is saying that we can't leave out this health factor, because this is part of the big picture of what we're trying to get to. So how can we, as community members, as community workers, how do we help folks? Again, length of life, quality of life. And they talked about an area in New Orleans where there was one zip code, and 8 miles away, there was another zip code. The actual length of life, the life expectancy, was 10 years shorter 8 miles away in one community versus the other. 10-year difference in the same city. And I guarantee if you were to look throughout Grand Rapids and other areas throughout Michigan, you may find those same statistics and you say, why is that? Why is the health, the actual length of life here this, and it's different here? Why is the quality of life different here than it is there? Again, it's really that comprehensive approach there. All right, just wanted to share that slide with you. Next slide, please. And again, we talk about this here, some of the actual opportunities here that we have. And again, just an overview here, support and partnerships. This is what we are. You're a partner with NeighborWorks America. We're not, quote unquote, just a funder. We are a partner with you. We want to hear from you. Human resources peer groups. I think, Justin, you're a part of that group there that meets to talk about how can we improve this aspect of work here. The NeighborWorks rental real estate growth cohort. I really advocated for Dwelling Place to be a part of that, and know many of you have actually been a part of that. And so where you're focused on a lot of that. Again, thank you, Latricia. They're building equity and healthy communities. There was a ton that I don't have listed here. The Asset Management Plan Liaison Group. I am a part of that. I'm also a CHAM person there, but the asset management is a group of us that look at asset management plans, your asset management plans, and we dissect it and provide feedback for you. And that's, and I represent the Midwest region on that call along. You hear some of these names of Harold Nassau and also Phil Hood, who are a part of really that really asset management group. For board members, and I've talked to Juan Daniel about this and others, Board Source and Dwelling Place, of course, is one that actually went through what we call EIG, Excellence in Governance. And Jeremy, if I'm not mistaken, I think Juan Daniel is the long-lasting board member that actually went through EIG, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be having some refreshers for your new board members. So we provide support for your board as well. One thing that I started mentioning, and I really would love my property managers to really peek up here, is that we're going to have a property management peer group that I'm going to be leading here real soon. We're wanting to launch this and be able to launch it in the next fiscal year. And our fiscal year is October 1 to September 30. So by October, we want to be launching this. So I'll be talking with Dwelling Place about who you want represented on that. What needs do you have as property managers, particularly as you work with resident services? And what we want to do is then talk with your peers throughout the network and have ideas that go back and forth to improve your performance, but also how do you improve property management and all the outcomes that you're looking for there. So look to see a lot more on the property management peer group. Just an idea that I had that our regional vice president says, Deletta Dean, who started here this year, she gave a thumbs up for this. So look to hear a lot more on that piece there. All right. Next slide, please. All right. Again, this here, and Latricia knows a lot about this, is marketing, communications, and resource development support. Latricia, if you can talk a little bit about what your involvement with this has been with this particular peer group here, okay?
Yeah, so the marketing peer group is regional, and I'm always getting updates about either what's happening at NeighborWorks, or oftentimes other members will reach out to the group saying, hey, we're working on this. What are you doing at your organization? I do the same. For example, when we created our social media kind of troubleshooting plan, I looked to other groups to say, what are you doing? And got a couple of their plans back and was able to incorporate some of those ideas into ours. And so it's been really helpful to lean on them when we're creating something new or if we have an issue. And then we also meet monthly to just have different talks about different topics. So it's nice to hear about what other organizations are doing and how they're just kind of using their work in their communities.
Thank you, Latricia. Yeah, a great group. I actually have attended some of that. One of the things that I did is when I was in my past organization, became a CFRE, a certified fundraising executive. And that's invaluable there because I always believe, even with my housing background and construction background, I really wanted to learn the ins and outs of raising funds. And so that's one of the things when it comes to the training opportunities. And we have a lot of online training, folks. So if you have an opportunity, get on there, take some of those courses there, but also these peer groups. And this is what I talked about from the previous slide, that I wanted to provide that opportunity for our property managers as well. So what Latricia and her team does in relation to others in her peer group, I want to create that for property managers there as well. And we also talked about resident services also being a part of that as well, because that connection there with property management, having different outcomes, but really talking through if those two work closely together, you're going to have a lot of great outcomes, because the residents are, at the end of the day, is where the concentration is. All right, next slide, please. And one other area of support that I really want to start drilling down on with dwelling places, really taking advantage of what we call CSI. And Jeremy, I'll be inviting you and whomever you deem necessary to be a part of a call that I'm going to have about 4 groups on to really look at taking advantage of corporate strategy and impact. I know a lot of folks already do this, but they have some new great tools to really help you communicate to partners, potential funders, financial supporters, financial institutions, to talk about how do you look at using data to tell your story, the mapping, the graphing, the data, the details, how do you use that? And so this is really something here that I really want to drill down on. So I will invite Dwelling Place to be a part of that call and really ask all your questions as to how CSI can really support what you're doing, because there's some great tools that you can customize for the areas in which you're serving, particularly as you start to go to other counties and look at what is the data telling us and how can we tell the story to partners, to community members, to really so that they understand why we're doing what we're doing, how we are listening to the voices on the ground, and how we are empowering people to really, again, live their best lives. All right. Next slide, please. The last couple of slides are going to be about, of course, with all the dollars, all of the training that we provide, all the support, we'd like to see how you're doing. And so what we talk about is a program review, prompt review here, all right? And so the review process really, these are the 3 areas that we look at here that are on the back end. And these 3 areas are only done during what we call an on-site review. Congress requires, and the dollars that we get mentioned, I failed to mention this earlier, are appropriations. We are actually a line item in the actual federal budget. We're not part of the HUD budget. NeighborWorks America is a line item. We actually have outstanding bipartisan support, and we have for over 40 years have always gotten our support. That's why it fluctuates as to when you receive your round 1 funding, because we can't get that funding until the budget is approved and signed off by the president. So that's why last year we received it in March. This year it's May. And so, but nonetheless, that support is always there. And what happens is that you have a time, and Jeremy, if you could just speak to, and as I as I drill down on this prompt review, kind of what you talked about with the executive symposiums and what the executives did virtually, but what you're looking to do is you talk what we can't do as NeighborWorks and what you're able to do as executives. Jeremy, if you could just take a couple of seconds to talk about that, this past one that was done virtually.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was able to kind of attend the virtual kind of executive symposium there, and it provides a great space to meet with other network leaders and learn what they are doing, right? And that capacity and the ability to hear what other organizations are thinking, to figure out what is common across all of the country of what so many people are facing together, and then be able to connect with and hear from national experts and peers that are facing the same challenge and figure out what's emerging it's been really helpful for me in kind of the lead up to this. And so, yeah, it's been, I think it's just a great resource and a great capacity that NeighborWorks brings to organizations like Dwelling Place to be able to so easily and effectively connect in a trusted environment with so many other capable people that are in the field.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. And again, you can do what we cannot do officially as NeighborWorks staff, where you talk with Congress, you talk with your senators, you talk with your congresspersons, and really talk with them about, hey, this is why NeighborWorks is important to keep going. Not only the monies that we receive, but also the technical support. So thank you for that, Jeremy.
Yeah, and I'll add to Reddit. Yeah, that connection with senators is really important. Obviously, it allows us to have a national influence and those connections, using those connections to kind of speak into it and direct Congress to support these things in a way that NeighborWorks can't, but also that without those connections and networks, we're just one organization talking there, but it creates a collective voice that we can use to do that ourselves with others and make that work. And I actually, a sign that it matters and that pays attention to is the fact that I heard from our senator's office about our grant awards actually before I heard the official news from Andrea and NeighborWorks, because senators are aware of this stuff and it matters to them. And we have some, our senator for Michigan, Gary Peters is a strong advocate and supporter of this type of work.
Mhm. Yeah, and we yeah, and as you talk with them, I know a lot of our network executives are saying that, hey, if this fund, in other words, we also leverage the money, and that's a big point that they love to hear. So $1 through NeighborWorks, again, they don't give to us, they give through us. What we do is leverage. When someone gives to Dwelling Place, they don't give to you, they give through you. What you do, and not just with these dollars, what Dwelling Place does is you take $1 and you leverage it. That dollar may end up being $30, $40, $50 to the community. That's what CSI helps you tell that story. In other words, you don't give to us, you give through us. What we do is take your dollar and we leverage it to make sure that we have community impact. And again, back to the prompt review. Sorry for the digression there, but I wanted to make that was important because it does speak to this. Congress looks at this information. They look at how are they doing. In other words, are tax dollars being used reasonably? Are they being leveraged? And so what we do, and this is what I did when I first came to NeighborWorks, I was an on-site reviewer. So we look at the management of the organization. We evaluate the planning. In other words, does your strategic plan match with your operational plan? And does every one of you, does what you do day to day point to your operations plan, thus your strategic plan? Because that's the only way that you're going to be able to have impact, right? Is if everyone, again, providing those handles are lifting at the same time and moving the community forward with the community itself, okay? That's what we're here to do, but we all have to be on the same page to do it. And also the technical operating systems. In other words, your client delivery services, HR, compliance, we look at all of that. And so that's part of the prompt review. Next slide. Just have a couple of more here left, folks. Wanted to leave 10 minutes for questions there. This is pretty small, but this is really about why the review process. Again, promote, enhance, measure. That's that word there, measure and assure. What we want to be is to assure that the dollars from the community, the taxpayer dollars are again being utilized in a way that leverages, okay? And again, what we do with those on-site reviews is that we measure that impact that you're having, okay? And we do that, the primary area, next slide, and I'll talk about this here, is really these areas. And I wanted this to be kind of the next to last slide. This is where the rubber meets the road. Those other three areas are what we call the areas that we do with an on-site review. What we do even during those other 2 years is an off-site review, which is called really a desk audit is what it is. And we look at your production, your lines of business. Okay, we look at asset management. We look at property management. We look at real estate development. And if you have it, we look homeownership preservation, homeownership promotion. And we look at those areas and we drill down in those areas to really look at, are you meeting your own stated goals? And are you meeting what we consider the threshold of having impact within your community? We also look at resource and financial management. So we talk with all of your folks that have to do with finance, talking with the boards, talking with CFO, talking with all of those that are in accounting. So when we look at this area here and really drill down on it. The other area is the OMBG, the Organizational Management and Board Governance. This is when we talk to the board of directors. Really, I actually have a regular call with Juan Daniel to talk about how the board is doing. Does the board provide the really appropriate oversight, the appropriate governance, and understand that they are fiscally responsible for really making sure the organization operates and understands its mission and fulfills that mission. So we do that again, on-site every 36 months, off-site every year, all right? So next slide. And this slide here is just really talking about some upcoming events here. We have a national, you're here at NeighborWorks Training Institute, you're here NTI. Some people say national, some people say NeighborWorks, but both are accepted there. One in LA that's coming up here, which I know a few of you are going to. And then we have one in Kansas City. so a little closer here, which will be August 15 to 19. There will also be a CLI, community leadership training, that's to be determined, and we will have a rural convening in Oklahoma in November of 2022. All right, next slide. And that is it. Wanted to again save a few moments here for any questions. And again, and Latricia, feel free to share this slide with the team. And if anyone has any questions about this, you can call me directly. Honestly, so that is my information there. So that is all I had. Any questions or any final comments? I know we're time is drawing nigh.
Thanks for that, Andre. That was great. Appreciate you taking some time to join us today and just share this overview.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah. So again, any questions that come up as you're doing your work, any ideas that you have, share with Jeremy. He'll share with me, or you can call me directly that you say, hey, you know what, is there something for this? So we want to make sure that you have what you need, okay, to be, again, we want to support what you do, team. I think Jen had a question.
No, I was just waving at a neighbor.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks, Jen. Any other questions, comments that you have here, right?
You're getting a lot of thanks in the chat here, Andre. I think you did a great job.
Yeah. So we, again, and this was just the overview. So there's a lot more to the story here as a part of NeighborWorks here. So wanted to make sure that everyone, the whole team, was informed. So when you see that NeighborWorks name, and so you'll definitely understand that. So and I'll be hopefully visiting Grand Rapids and get to meet all of you face to face some point this year. So I'll be coordinate that with Jeremy. All right.
Great. Thanks, Andre.
All right. Thanks a lot, team. Gonna give you a few minutes left there. Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot now.
Thanks.
All right. Goodbye.
Yeah. Thanks, Andre. It's good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you, Justin, my friend. So hope to see you again, man.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
All
you.
All right. Thanks a lot, team. Everyone have a good rest of the day. Enjoy your Friday.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We've got a couple minutes left together here yet before 10 o'clock. So